Today we have a privilege to host a unique assembly of space leaders of several space agencies from around the world. Dear panelists, we welcome you and we're honored to have you join the symposium. And to lead such a distinguished group, we have Dr. Dumitru Dorin Prunariu, a former cosmonaut, a leader of the Romanian Space Agency, and the current chairman of the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. Dr. Prunariu and the panelists, we are looking forward to your discussions on the imperatives of global collaboration.
Thank you very much. A warm hello to all participants at this symposium. I'm honored to be invited by Space Foundation to moderate a so important panel with so impressive panelists. I thank the Space Foundation for the opportunity to be here. We benefit today of the presence of outstanding representatives of important space agencies will help us to develop the topic of the imperative of global cooperation in space activities. I will introduce them in alphabetical order. First is Dr. Chamar Farina, Vice President of the Canadian Space Agency. The second, the Honorable Lori Garver, Deputy Administrator of NASA. Mr. Kiyoshi Higuchi, the Vice President of JAXA. Professor Kate Mason, Senior Advisor of the UK Space Agency and Chair of the UK Space Board. Dr. Francisco Javier Mendieta Jimenez, the General Director of the newly established Mexican Space Agency. Dr. Gert Newport, Director of the Netherlands Space Office, and Dr. Johan Dietrich Verner, Chairman of the Executive Board of the German Aerospace Center. As the Chairman of the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, I deal with many problems connected with the collaboration between the United Nations member states to reach consensus on the use of space data, technology and applications to solve regional or global problems of the humanity to help sustainable development at a global level. In the same time, space science and exploration, Earth observations, climate change research, the sharing of environmental data, disaster mitigation and relief, space surveillance for near-Earth objects and for debris monitoring and awareness are the most demanding fields for international cooperation. The International Space Station is considered the largest international space project, and it is maybe the brightest example of a long and fruitful cooperation between many space nations. I consider the UN Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space as the highest international platform for political, scientific, technical, and legal debates connected with space, a platform for negotiations, elaboration and promotion of important international treaties, agreements, UN resolutions, and guidelines for all member states. UN COPUOS is in the same time the reflection and an integration body of most of the global and regional forums of cooperation in space fields. In an era with space becoming increasingly crowded with new players, the need to share their commitment to act responsibly in space to help prevent mishaps, misperceptions, and mistrust becomes a must. Long-term sustainability of space activity is now one of the most challenging items under discussion at the UN COPUOS that needs a real global cooperation and understanding. Rising costs of space exploration as well as increased global competition make collaboration the obvious option for most of spacefaring nations. Even if with small exceptions, the global navigation satellite systems are controlled by military entities, being considered parts of the national security structures and programs, the need of coordination of the activity in this field at the global level opens the doors for foreign partnerships and international cooperation. Recognizing the rights of all nations to access, use, and explore space for peaceful purposes and for the benefit of all humanity, it's a demand inscribed in the main international space treaties. I'm impressed by the high number of foreign participants at this National Space Symposium. At one of the dinners, I stayed at a table with important representatives from China. I take this example as a result of an open international policy of the Space Foundation for a better understanding and collaboration. I appreciate it, especially in the line with the new US National Space Policy, which calls for significantly greater international cooperation in a wide range of civilian and national security programs. Setting up verifiable agreements limits concerns and the benefits of the global community, including the security communities. In this modern space era, new countries show determination to reach beyond Earth orbit by launching space missions to the moon, like Japan, the European Space Agency, China, and India. This time, the race in space has turned into an international collaboration between space agencies from all continents for the benefit of science. Those are elements to help extend the reach of human civilization throughout the solar system. I wish now to invite our distinguished panelists to express their views on the imperative of global cooperation in space activities.
Not so fine.
Because of time restrictions, we may offer each of you 7-8 minutes to address the topic, to leave some time for questions. First, I want to invite Dr. Chamer Farina, the Vice President of the Canadian Space Agency, to share its view. Please, Dr. Farina.
Thank you very much. Can I perhaps have the slides for...
So the slides, please, for Dr. Farina.
Thank you very much. Greetings, and thanks very much for the invitation to speak today. I must say it's truly an honor to get the opportunity. I think it's rather unique for Canada to speak before the United States on an issue of space. So thank you very much for that honor. Canada, space is particularly strategic for Canada. We have the second largest landmass in the world, the longest coastline of any country, bordered by 3 oceans, low population density with a fair degree of fair number of rural and remote communities, large resource-based economy, and a highly variable and fragile environment. We are also very committed to the advancement of knowledge and have invested heavily in that. So Canada's investments in space are a question of necessity and respond to our unique needs. It's clear why space matters to Canada, but why do we actually collaborate? We're a small nation. We don't have all of the we have limited resources, and we do not have a fully vertically integrated space industry. For example, we lack a launch capability. We need to cooperate and collaborate to be able to succeed, basically, in being able to provide what space can provide in terms of our national priorities. And so we've been a very active partner in international space programs since the very beginning. We were an early partner on ISS, and as the picture from the recent Heads of Agency meeting held in Quebec City demonstrates, we continue to play a very active role. To partner, you need to have a strong indigenous capability that other spacefaring nations require for success. In Canada's case, we have a strong presence in the areas of robotics, optical sensors, telecom and radar, and microwave payloads and subsystems. The images you see on the screen there highlight some of our recent, or not even recent, but our contributions in these areas. Dexter, took another very significant step forward recently in cutting that very small wire in space. SciSat, which is the world's reference for measuring ozone. NeoSat, which will be launched this year, will help in the world's efforts to build better space situational awareness. We cooperate at a program and at a project level, but we also engage at a more systemic level. Canada just recently, in the last couple of weeks, renewed its commitment to the ISS until 2020. Also, just a few weeks ago, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Japan, and we are also pursuing a space treaty with Russia for the peaceful use of space. Looking forward, what are the opportunities? Well, as the slide shows, there have been remarkable changes in the international space landscape in the last decade. These changes have been both amongst traditional players and in the growth of the number of new players. Some 54 countries have now been involved in some way or another in the International Space Station. We will need to continue to work to ensure that as we go forward, we remain open and flexible so that we can acknowledge national needs while ensuring cooperative global efforts. This is particularly important in this era of tighter government budgets. In this context, I would suggest that we need to work together to demonstrate that the returns to the investments made by our countries in international space projects generate far greater returns than can be achieved through investments made solely in domestic projects. To conclude then, I would just say that collaboration is our collective future. The collaboration involves not only efforts at project and program levels, but on building the case for collective action in space. And that basically space is a force that builds understanding and a trust in a world that needs both. And there is no doubt that the knowledge space will generate will transform our collective future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farina. You have seen what means space and collaboration for a nation who builds a strong national program. Now I want to give the floor to the Honorable Lori Garver, Deputy Administrator of NASA, to share her views with us. Please, Lori.
Good morning. Well, it is wonderful to be here, and of course NASA is happy to go in any order that is chosen, this one being alphabetical, but I will share with you in the green room at the discussion that our good partners from Germany were proposing that we go by alphabetically, but by the name of our agencies in French. So I think that's a great example of our spirit of cooperation and collaboration. It is a great, perfect title for the talk today. This panel is represented by 8 diverse nations, and I think you need look no further than to recognize that what began with the Cold War has now become a truly global effort. At NASA, in our 52-year history, we have had over 4,000 international agreements with 120 different nations. Any of you who recognize this history, and we have, I know throughout the week and in the past few years, had concerns that we as an industry, as a community, are not able to change and adapt, look no further than this collaborative effort. Again, born of the Cold War, the space program is truly a collaborative effort. Another signal, in my view, is the Space Generation Fusion Forum that is being held here this week. Right after our panel, you're going to hear from Ariana Cornell, who is their leader. I spoke with them, as did many of the panelists, earlier in the week, and you will see that the collaborative spirit that is today has a great future. But let's start with where we are on the International Space Station. The project of the ISS for over 11 years now, continuous astronauts, cosmonauts, and people from around the world living and working in space. The collaborative effort of 15 nations on such a magnificent, extremely large project, I think really shows and symbolizes what we have together achieved. We know that many of our nations, our partners, have experienced challenges during this time, and we've been there for each other. We have been through new partnerships. We have been through times when others were having difficulty with their own nation's budgets, and we have developed what is undoubtedly the greatest technological achievement of humankind. So what is that worth to society? What is that worth to humanity? Again, I think it speaks for itself. Part of how we at NASA need to fulfill our commitments to our international partners on space station is, of course, to provide transportation to and from the space station, not only with our astronauts, but our partner agencies, as well as with our cargo. So we are providing this space transportation at the conclusion of the shuttle mission now with this new commercial program. We are looking in just under 2 weeks now to launch the first cargo mission that will dock with the space station, following on with these amazing vehicles through truly inspirational work with our aerospace industry that has been with us throughout our 52-year history. Now, this is just an overall, this is a strategy that NASA has that the space transportation piece is just a part of. So our strategy includes investing in technology to give us risk reduction across the field. It includes increasing innovation by doing things like small sats and hosted payloads, which again allow for more international partnerships. We are all about infusing competition so that we can reduce costs and increase our own competitiveness, and to have more effective and efficient acquisition strategies. So where possible, having fixed price and Space Act agreements where we can be a smarter buyer for the American taxpayer. So this strategy allows us to advance our technology, reduce the cost of space activities for all, and that will include our international partners, certainly again on our space station commitment, but also reducing the cost of carrying out our valuable science missions, almost all of which include international partnerships, so that we can do even more of the valuable cutting-edge research we do in space. We believe that this will create more jobs here in the US, open new markets, and better utilize space for the benefit of humanity. But President Obama has been very clear, and just 2 years ago, almost to the week, he has made space activities key elements of America's commitment to building a more peaceful world. So again, at Kennedy Space Center 2 years ago, he said that no longer are we racing against a global adversary. What was once a global competition has long since become a global collaboration. And this cooperative mandate isn't just in the human spaceflight arena. The full scope of our cooperative efforts can really be seen when you look at the work that we're doing with other nations in science. And here are just a few examples of some current and recent missions with significant international collaboration. So together, we're studying everything from the effects of living with our own star to the search for life at a planet rotating around a distant star. We're exploring our own solar system as well, and continue to have an intense focus on exploring Mars. And here at home, we cooperate closely with not only other US government agencies, but across the globe. We utilize the Committee on Earth Observation's CEOS, and have a number of represented agreements, most recently with USAID on the SERVIR program, which again has been outlined by the previous speakers, takes the useful data of our satellites for Earth applications that have helped the world. Another great example, Aquarius with the SAC-D instrument from Argentina, a new partner. So perhaps most importantly is that we share the data. Since our existence, we have archived and made publicly available all of the data received from our spacecraft projects for citizens of the world to best utilize. Today, each day, we bring back more than 4 terabytes of new Earth science data and derived projects, again, making it publicly available. So let there be no confusion. International collaboration is critical to America and to NASA. But let me also be clear that we intend to continue to be a leader in this great endeavor. As we gather here today all across the country, NASA and aerospace industry workers are busy building vehicles to travel to space with names like Orion, Dragon, CST-100, Liberty, and New Shepard. We have a bright future, and I spoke earlier, as I mentioned, to the Space Generation Fusion Forum. I gave to them a top 10 list of why I thought they should continue in this career, and I won't bore you with the entire list today, but they included reasons like the incredible growth potential of this industry, also great pickup line for parties. But my second of the top 10 reasons that I felt people should, at their young age, continue in this field and make a career of this field was the National Space Symposium alone. Seriously, the Broadmoor. Where else can you gather with your very, very best friends and thousands of brilliant people around the world committed to making the world a better place? And the number one reason I told folks I think they should have their career be in the space community is that space activities promise to deliver the most meaningful, positive advancements for society of any other field. So together we will deliver a space program that not only advances the human condition, but also the human spirit. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lori. I just want to point out a fact that happened 20 years ago. I was a representative of my country to the UN, and I remember that from 13 years, the new regulations connected with the use of nuclear power sources were under discussions and debates. I remember that in June 92, the President Bush Sr. and President Yeltsin of Russia signed the first agreement, very transparent agreement between the two nations to collaborate in space activity for peaceful purposes. 2 days after they signed the agreement, the delegations got the recommendations from their Minister of Foreign Affairs to deal, to negotiate, to finalize the negotiations and to shake the hands. It was done. So it's a very good example what means transparency, what means measures of trust in this field of activity. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Kiyoshi Higuchi, the Vice President of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your kind introduction. Can I go back? Okay, fine. According to the alphabetical order, I'm very happy to follow the Garver. Not means follow the NASA. Sometimes we are fighting.
No problem. We have to recover 1 minute.
Okay, today I'll mainly talk about JAXA's global collaboration activities. I added some comment.
Did you give them the text?
Okay. We have many collaborations with all over the world. Then,
Maybe you're right.
just I summarized our collaboration. The first page shows an example of the JAXA's global cooperation. Of course, JAXA has been actively pursuing cooperation for global, regional, and bilateral in every phase. Okay, CEOs and GEO are, the example of our global cooperation. Global cooperation activities, both intergovernmental committee or groups for coordination, global Earth observation activities in order to understand the global climate change by using a satellite. JAXA is one of the leading agencies, I believe. Okay, ISS is another good example of the multilateral cooperation. But I don't want to go into the detail in this presentation because you must be familiar with this program. Okay, bilateral cooperation, just many. Many means JAXA maintained the cooperation, bilateral cooperation with more than 20 countries with cooperation agreement. Okay, today I would like to show or talk about regional cooperation because we have a very good example to understand or learn. Okay, so-called Asia Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum, namely APR-SAF. APR-SAF was established in 1993 following the recommendation made during the International Space Year and has been held annually to discuss current space issues and possible cooperation. Its objective is to promote regional cooperation in space technology development and application. It is an extremely relaxed framework for cooperation, which has gradually expanded through the grassroots or bottom-up styles. In the history of the APR-SAF, over the last 18 years, 35 countries and 325 organizations, including 24 international organizations in total, has participated. In recent years, APR-SAF has created several initiatives or substantial cooperation projects. You can see the right hand, such as the Sentinel-Asia disasters management system using satellite imagery in Asia-Pacific region is a typical one. The last APR-SAF 18 was successfully held in Singapore in last December, and 19th will be held in Malaysia this December. If you want, you can participate. Doesn't work.
Just hold it down. Just hold it down for a little bit, minute.
So, no, I saw he has something, but it doesn't work. The tab's not the same.
Doesn't work.
Something happened with the slide?
Okay.
Okay.
Next slide. Maybe
I
it's a
don't know.
movie.
Schade.
At least the technical stuff, then the slides don't move.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
This is let me show you more detail on about the Sentinel-Asia. Okay, this is a framework of Sentinel-Asia. There are three communities: space community, APR-SAF itself, and disaster reduction community such as the Asian ADRC, means Asian Disaster Reduction Center, and the international community. We have shared our information or data from satellite in order to mitigate or prevent disasters. Right now, we have 4 Earth observation satellites from India, Thailand, Korea, and Taiwan. They provide very important and beneficial data from satellite. I believe that experiences of the regional cooperation through the APR-SAF contains a lot of hint to expand to global cooperation. I listed just 4 hints: simple participating mechanism and convenient cooperation tool. We need a satellite, and we just added the internet and personal computer, that's all. And voluntary basis and simple mechanism to access the benefit of the cooperation. Okay. Based on these cooperation, I listed our possible topics of international cooperation in future or expand our present cooperation. As a conclusion of my participation, let me introduce a point of my thought always be in my mind on the global cooperation. The word imperative included in today's theme embellishes the meaning of something that must be done urgently, and it is nearly unavoidable. I agree that meaning, but however, I firmly believe that global cooperation should not be carried out as an imperative effort. Rather, it is carried out as the nature of the human being. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of lessons learned from our experience of fruitful cooperation through the APR-SAF or ISS or other cooperation over the past several decades. Jack would like to share, expand those experiences to anyone who wants to participate in the international cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Higuchi. Indeed, APRSAF is one of the very good examples of regional cooperation. And Japan is conducting very well the work in the framework of this forum. Now I invite Professor Kate Mason from UK to share his views with us concerning the imperative of global cooperation. Please, Professor Mason.
Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be here. And the timing of this conference is rather fortuitous and opportune for us because next week sees the 50th anniversary of the launch of the first UK satellite, which was launched on an American carrier. And this is also, I think, the first instance, the first example of genuine international cooperation in space projects in the way that we've come to understand it. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our American colleagues for what I think is, in the spirit and in the context of the times, a very far-sighted decision to open up their program to international cooperation. So we've been doing it for 50 years, and clearly it's not going to go away anytime soon. So the exploration of space is an inspirational activity, and we all know that seeing the nations of the Earth in the context of the vastness of the solar system, or indeed the vastness of the universe beyond, is both a humbling and unifying experience. But the exploration of the solar system is also an expensive business. And it's clear that if we're to do this successfully and sustainably, we must work together to pool our resources and expertise. Now, in this regard, the UK has been very active in the European Mars exploration program and the planning of that, and a strong supporter of the global exploration strategy from the outset. But cooperation is not sufficient. We also need to make access to space cheaper, and the best way to do this is to increase the volume of space activities by exploiting the economic potential that space offers. And in these times of global economic difficulty, that message is very relevant and very germane. Now, in the UK, we also have a new space agency. It's about a year old. And the strategy of that new agency is firmly focused on growth, economic growth. Space is increasingly important for the world economy, and increasingly the economic motivation and increasing economic motivation for space both serves our national interests and also our desire to explore by increasing capability and putting downward pressure on costs. And of course, space is by definition a global marketplace, so international cooperation is essential. In the UK, we pride ourselves on being innovative in space and in other things, and we've never had large national budgets, and so we've been forced to be innovative, particularly in the way we finance space activities. And I think this is a very strong capability to take forward into the current new world. And I want to give you two examples of UK innovation where I think global collaboration and international collaboration generally is going to be very important. And the first example is that we have a company in the UK, a very innovative company who's been working for a while. It's called Reaction Engines, in developing the concept of a reusable space plane, which has the potential to reduce costs of access to space by an order of magnitude. And clearly, if you can achieve this, which would turn the economics of space on its head. The key technology here is a hybrid engine, the Sabre engine, which is air-breathing at low altitudes and transitions to rocket mode at high altitudes, enabling a single-stage-to-orbit vehicle, which is then reusable. Now, this engine is a breakthrough in propulsion, a breakthrough in technology, and is in the current stages of final stages of proof of concept testing. but it really does have, I think, the capabilities to revolutionize the way we fly to orbit. But the challenges, of course, of full production of such a vehicle are considerable, and the development costs are also considerable. So there's a clear need to pool resources and expertise around the world if we are to develop the capability that this breakthrough offers in a timely manner. And that, of course, benefits us all. The second example is in the exploitation of space. The UK is placing a lot of emphasis on developing new applications and services that utilize space assets. And we have created this vehicle called the International Space Innovation Center to help us focus these efforts. ISIC brings together industry, academia, and government in a unique partnership, so collaboration within the nation as well as abroad. And again, it's the same story. If services based on, for example, Earth observation or satellite navigation have an intrinsically global reach. And international cooperation is essential if we're to open up these markets. Indeed, one of the main functions of ISA is to act as a portal for international engagement with the UK. So in summary, we're very excited about the future prospects for space and keen to do what we can to foster constructive and sustainable collaboration between us. And as I say, we're all in this together, and we will all benefit from those activities. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mason. One of the very important ideas is to make the space cheaper by cooperation, by international collaboration as well. Now I give the floor to Dr. Francisco Javier Mendieta Jimenez, the General Director of the Mexican Space Agency. Mexico has all-standing aviation and space now industry. So the established last year of the Mexican Space Agency is very welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the Space Foundation for being invited to this splendid panel. We are very proud that Mexico is now in the landscape of the space agencies, just established in November 2011. Mexico has a long and important tradition in space activities, particularly space science, astrophysics, geophysics, climatology, meteorology, and related sciences. Of course, many of them made by international collaboration and cooperation between academic groups and government groups. Also, Mexico is the 12th economy of the world. We are an important buyer or purchaser of geostationary satellite systems during now 4 generations. And we are also important consumers and buyers of information coming from remote sensing satellites. We just hosted 2 years ago the 6th Space Conference for the Americas. The Mexican Space Agency was established in order to coordinate and act as a interlocutor between several communities around several pillars that compose the future Mexican activities in space. But the main objectives are twofold. First, attending the societal needs, such as disaster management, communications for digital divide attention, Earth observation and ocean observation for agriculture, for land management, urbanism, and for other coastal and ocean activities. The second dominant element is to foster our aerospace industry. As you see in this view graph, the Mexican aerospace industry is growing very rapidly, more than 2 digits per year, with an important export figure and growing also in foreign direct investment. but it's mostly aeronautical than space. I would say only 3% space, 97% aeronautical, and one of the objectives of the Mexican Space Agency is, of course, fostering the aerospace, but making a transit towards the space development. We already have, in these few months developing initiatives of collaboration in the field of the future Mexican space industry in two domains, one in the geostationary satellites with an international partner, and the other in the Earth observation satellite, particularly for observing in infrared regions for special applications in Mexico. In this, the technology transfer is a necessary condition, and technology transfers goes in both sides. We receive a lot of transfer from the international partner due to their long tradition, and Mexican advanced manufacturing, social and academic knowledge of the needs, and also the big supply of engineers and scientists and technicians. Just to mention an example of the importance of the international collaboration, as you see in this map, we share a common border with the United States of America, more than 3,000 kilometers. We face common challenges, security, which is the first issue, but also ecology at the border, urbanism, water issues, immigration, earthquakes, traffic, and together we form a joint economy. Many challenges are present, and the space can be an excellent enabler in order to tackle all these challenges and have an intelligent border with a joint, more equitable economy. Finally, we are new in the landscape. There are no geographical borders, and that's just one example of what can be accomplished if we put together international cooperation that is imperative in this 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mendieta Jimenez. I want to point out also that at the level of the Latin America and Americas, generally speaking, exists the Space Conference of Americas, and Mexico is holding now the pro tempore secretariat. So it shows also the importance of this country in the region. Now I want to give the floor to Dr. Ger Newport, Director of the Netherlands Space Office. Please, Ger.
Thank you. Oh, it's going too far.
It's okay, it's okay.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence here. It's a pleasure for me to present to you our views on international cooperation. The Netherlands is having one big advantage above many other countries in international cooperation. We are very small. Our world outside is much bigger than yours, giving more opportunities and reasons for international cooperation. For centuries, the Netherlands has played a leading role in astronomy and related instrument development. Not surprisingly, at the beginning of the space age, there was a strong wish among astronomers in the Netherlands to become active in space. For a small country like the Netherlands, that was only possible via international cooperation. Therefore, the Netherlands is one of the founding members of the European Space Agency. So the driver for international cooperation in the Netherlands was science. Our activities were concentrated in two areas. Of course, astrophysics and later atmospheric research. Cooperation mainly takes place in the framework of ESA scientific programs. Examples are XMM Newton and HiFi. But there was also cooperation outside the ESA framework. IRAS, BeppoSAX and Chandra in astrophysics. In Earth observation, Skiamaki and OMI, the ozone monitoring instrument on the NASA Aura mission, which is still delivering excellent data. We are now building the successor TROPOMI for the Sentinel-5 precursion mission of ESA. But the world is changing and space is changing with it. And in this change, space will become less technology-driven and more user-driven, less institutional and more market-oriented. These two trends I want to highlight. The first space applications in telecommunication, navigation, and Earth observation are becoming more and more important for the world outside our space community. They are in many ways crucial for how our society will develop. Telecommunication is a means for transferring information. Navigation gives information on only one aspect, position. However, Earth observation will provide information on many aspects influencing our daily lives on Earth. To name a few, information about water scarcity and flooding, about crop yields and agriculture, health monitoring of infrastructure on roads, railways, and very important for the Netherlands, dikes. Via the combination of telecommunication, navigation, and Earth observation, space will become an important part of our information society. But this cannot be done by governments only. We need to have an effective Earth observation market as well, and it is not there yet. Market development is hampering. The Earth observation market now is too dependent on large government and defense contracts. This makes the second trend even more important. Further commercialization, upstream as well as downstream. The summum of international cooperation is having an open global market. For space, science and exploration can be done via governments only, but building space hardware and using it can be done more effectively via an open market. However, till now, governments were not very effective in creating the conditions for a more commercial space market. And in this respect, the development in the USA of the Commercial Crew Development Program is of great importance to introduce a more commercial approach in space, which is, to my opinion, absolutely essential to reap all benefits which space can bring to society. What does these trends mean for the future of international cooperation of the Netherlands? In the future, the Netherlands will remain active in cooperation in those areas where there is a clear government role, science and exploration. The growing importance of applications and commercialization of space activities lead to an increased need for the Netherlands to find interested international partners to create a framework for cooperation. In this, the Netherlands Space Office and its international partner will define an area of cooperation on an institutional level, for example, science, but also we can improve cooperation on a corresponding business level. This could be a first step into the direction of a more open market between the two countries and therefore to better opportunities for commercialization of space activities. For instance, the Netherlands Space Office has signed an MOU with JAXA and recently with CARI. Discussions with Canada are ongoing. Next to this, our international cooperation will expand towards downstream and commercial activities as well. More market-oriented, therefore. But the government, the Netherlands Space Office, can play a role in facilitating cooperation. However, this cooperation does not have to start within space only. In many areas, the Netherlands has a long record of international cooperation. For example, with many countries in areas like agriculture and water, addressing basic needs. Internationally oriented Dutch firms in the water and agricultural sector are playing a role in this cooperation. Geoinformation plays an important role in these activities. Through affiliation with these companies and integrating satellite data into the geoinformation requirements, space can play a role in this cooperation as well. As an example, the Dutch Ministry for Development Aid has already shown a great interest in the use of space data for their cooperation activities. The trend of commercialization of space activities can be fostered by more international cooperation, also between companies. This can only thrive with government creating the right market conditions. For example, there's market protection. We have made some first steps now. For example, Dutch companies have presented themselves to companies in the USA active in the CCDEF program, like Boeing, Orbital, Bigelow, and SpaceX, to look for cooperation opportunities. The Netherlands Space Office is coordinating these efforts. Based on our heritage in science, instrument development, for example, via miniaturization, can be an area for cooperation between companies as well, especially when this could lead to a complete mission bringing a commercial service to a market. Also here, discussions with US companies have started. Let me conclude. Science will always remain a driver for international cooperation of the Netherlands. The more global, the better. The growing importance of commercialization and space applications lead to broadening the scope of our international cooperation activities at this time. However, government role here should be temporary. When having an open global space market upstream as well as downstream, for space it will have become business as usual. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Niport. Thank you.
Be better before my
The global market and the commercialization of space applications represents a good reason for international cooperation, for a larger and larger international cooperation. Now I want to give the floor to Dr. Johan Dietrich Verner, the chairman of the executive board of the German Aerospace Center, to share his views on the international cooperation. Please, Dr. Verner.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for giving me the opportunity to speak on the occasion of this symposium. As Lori Garver said, I proposed another solution to start with Germany, but now I'm happy because what I would like to say is a little bit something more general instead of giving different examples from Germany, and it may be right now the right position for the discussion we may have afterwards. If we look to the activities in space, of course, we have to look also in the past. And of course, the starting points of space activities were curiosity and a little bit engineering challenge. Since then, it's based, but also forming a new type of cultural heritage. Of course, the hot and cold war was a driver for space. Werner von Braun should be named at this point. The 100th anniversary was just some days ago. It was a competition of societal and political systems. It was politically driven demonstration of power, and the central focus was national success, and collaboration was only be done if there was some national advantage seen by the corporation. However, even during that time, we had already bilateral cooperation between USSR and the USA with the docking rendezvous between Apollo and Soyuz. So the cooperation started even during these times, which we call today the Cold War time. So the actual situation is that we hope that hot and cold war is history, that we are in a global world, that we are aware of global challenges, but still we have only limited cooperation in Europe, we have still only limited cooperation worldwide. We have the existence of nations, intergovernmental organizations, we have existing competencies around our globe, and we have an industrial competition and still national claims to leadership. The question is, how can we handle that? And in order to make some general remarks, I would like to show just a few examples where we have to consider that cooperation is really a challenge. One is multinational, or we could call it also regional cooperation, for instance, GPS, Galileo, or any other navigation system in the world. So it shows that there are regions which find together, in this case it's the European Space Agency, to define, for instance, a navigation system, a satellite navigation system. A more general cooperation is, of course, the International Space Station. It's a global cooperation with states from all around the globe. Still, there might be some more states, some nations to come, but it's working. And then we have some field where we are discussing, and the question is this really already bilateral cooperation, or in this very special case between Iridium and Cosmos, I could call it also a bilateral coalition, because it was a coalition of satellites of two nations. And I think this area of SSA, debris, etc., is really a global challenge which needs global cooperation. And we all know that debris and other items might be also a very interesting point for the press, for the media, like this Chevrolet Malibu, which was hit by a meteorite. And the industry of the insurance companies already found out that this might be a very good point to find new clients. So we have to take into account these areas, and we in Germany, and I think it's a global endeavor, we are trying to have a solution for that. We are right now in a project which should be able also to catch up non-cooperative satellites with a robot to de-op it safely. So all these examples should be just there. I hope the next slide comes. Yes, should just be there to say, okay, there is a matrix. The horizontal axis should be something like governmental or commercial responsibility and funding, and the vertical one is the mode of cooperation starting from national, bilateral, regional, up to multinational and global. And the question is, where is space? Where is space in this picture? And I hope it does not work so far, but it should work now. So where is space? That's the real question. But the answer is not one single answer. We need to have several answers. And the several answers are on the next picture, hopefully. Yes, there is the first trial to derive the different answers. So far in the past, it was more or less everything was oriented towards governmental or public activities. And you see here that, for instance, security, we have civil security, which might be a global endeavor, but the military part of that may be even in the future more national. We call them national security. But science, exploration, civil Earth observation, transportation, communication, and navigation, there might be a broader field of cooperation and also some changes to more commercial activities. If we look to the past, then we have a very good result in the human spaceflight. From Apollo-Soyuz, I mentioned, Shuttle Mir, up to the ISS. But in exploration, interesting enough, also it should be easier, there is some question mark. And I hope that we will find a solution for the near future, that the cooperation is also in that field, and that this picture, which you will see right now, will not be happen. Because if all of us trying to fly to Mars independently, that might not be the right solution to discover our world. And even this nice rover might have some problems if there is another mission coming. So, the future situation. The future situation of cooperation in space is, of course, a shift and change of paradigms. We need cooperation and collaboration. I think science, Earth observation, civil security, exploration, transportation, and technology transfer. These are the areas where we should concentrate, but also we should enhance the commercial activities beyond national borders. I don't mention ITER at this point, to tackle global challenges jointly. And I would remind you that there is a next step, which has been already decided, the Exploration Conference in the USA 2013, following the Lucca Conference we had last year, and I hope we will get new ideas and new steps for the future of cooperation worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Verner, especially for the very optimistic view on the future exploration of Mars. Now, summarizing the views of our speakers on the imperative of global cooperation, I want first to give the floor to our panelists to answer some questions. Some of them, they are for me as a moderator, some are for the panelists. First questions, please share your thoughts on the feasibility of an international space agency authority. So in my view, agency is one thing, authority it's a little bit different thing. The authorities should issue regulations and look for the applications of these regulations mainly. And the agency should look for cooperation on different projects. We have a very good example of the European Space Agency as an international space agency. International at the level of Europe, of course. There are 19 members. The last member from the end of the last year, it's even my country, Romania. And here we have a very good example of programs, common programs necessary for Europe, and each agency has its own national programs as well. So in this way, we could think about a larger international cooperation and a larger space agency. But of course, this is my personal opinion. If some panelists have their own opinion, I ask them to answer.
I can say something.
Okay, please, Dr. Verner.
Okay, you mentioned that Romania was the last member state of the joining ESA, and Germany was one of the first.
Yes,
so,
that's right.
and we see it very equally to what you were saying. So, right now, and we don't have a global government, we don't have a European government dealing with all the subjects. And as long as we don't have that, and I think this will take longer than going to Mars with humans, we should not consider that we have a global agency which is far away from the local needs, from the regional needs. And also, you see, the money comes from the different member states in ESA. And this is one of the golden value of ESA, because we have a very special rule in ESA, the so-called geo-return. So if one country spends about 50% of a certain project, they get also back 50% of the money spent for this project. And this rule supports the individual member states to give more money to ESA. So the idea, the solution is a very fine one. And I think we should work in the future also to combine national interests by national agencies. We have also a national budget in Germany, but we are preparing works for ESA, and then together we are stronger than just a single member state. So we should work more together, but not looking for another authority, another government, or whatever would be the result of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Verner. So another question. One of the citizens of the United States is excited to see the advances by SpaceX, especially with the high anticipated ISS rendezvous. How do you, our international partners, see this commercial activity? Do you have any concerns?
I can just say Arianespace is also a commercial provider of launch services. So we have a good experience of that, but it doesn't solve all problems, but it helps to solve some of them.
So actually, the commercialization of space, it's one of the necessary steps to reduce the costs and to make the space activity more effective. So this is my view. So no concerns to see such very interesting and very necessary realizations on the side of the United States. If somebody has, Dr. Farina, please.
Obviously, as a country that doesn't have a launch capability, the more capabilities out there that we can use and the more competition there is, that's a good thing, I think, from our perspective.
Now I invite Lori Garver to answer some questions she already has before her.
Sure, you've given me like 5 different questions, which are basically the same, and I'll read from the first that really articulates the question best. The United States aspires to a human space exploration program worthy of a great nation. Do you think space exploration program as currently framed and funded meets this description? Anyone want to guess my answer? You betcha. I believe that building on the success of the Space Shuttle program, which, let's take a moment, Discovery just in the last hour has been turned over to the National Air and Space Museum, where she'll continue her mission of inspiration. But building on the success of that, and specifically to the International Space Station, which we all realize is that toehold to our future of beyond LEO human exploration, I think we are really developing by focusing on technology, innovation, and partnerships. Much of what was talked about here on the panel has allowed us to, again, regain that foothold for the future. So not only are we the largest space agency on the planet, we invest over $18 billion in our nation's space program, fully half of that at our human space exploration program. And that is not a typical percentage. It's much, much greater than the element of the human exploration program of other agencies. And often when Charlie and I will be meeting, maybe bilaterally with some of our colleagues, including up here, and we might be in the budget time and we might be whining a little about our budgets, we get a lot of eye rolling across the table. Really, 18 billion, not quite enough. 9 billion, not quite enough. We need to recognize that this is, while we would love to have more, a wonderful expression of confidence of the leadership of the country and of the American people. So would we have loved to inherit a program that was able to forward our advancements in a way that allowed us to not have a time when when we would not be able to launch people to and from space from our shores, you betcha. We would have liked to have had a healthier space exploration program already invested in before shuttle retirement that allowed us to extend station and marry our programs with our aspirations. But we believe we have absolutely realigned our program and are back on track. So we're extending space station. We are investing in these technologies and partnerships so that we can lower the cost of the space infrastructure for LEO, and we can again go beyond LEO. So we are investing significantly, nearly $3 billion, as just confirmed by both the House and the Senate appropriators in the last couple days, to develop the Space Launch System and the Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle Orion to again go back. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with our partners on identifying a lot of capability that they can bring to this, but we provide this leadership, and we're thrilled to be able to continue to do that on behalf of the American people. So do we aspire to have such a program? We not only aspire, but I believe we have one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lori. So one very interesting question, and I will address it to the panelists as it was addressed in the computer here. The word leadership, it's often used, but seldom described or explained. Could the panelists define leadership in this context?
I would try.
Please.
I would always say leadership does not mean maximum power, which is usually a synonym. I would say leadership, I would make it in general, but then I come to the special task. Leadership means that an organization or a group of persons are really leading by visions, by ideas, but also by mental power to convince others to cooperate and to do it together. And exactly that means, for me, leadership in space.
I think it's clear. We have 9 more minutes, so I will address the next question to the European panelists as it was asked for. How do you feel about NASA's exit from the Mars 2016 and Mars 2018 missions?
Sorry. We feel sorry.
Will only you accept NASA's invitation to participate in the US redesigned Mars mission, which will launch in 2018 or 2020? Yeah, all of us were sorry. Yes, I consider Mars as a field of very large international cooperation. So if the moon was approached during the Cold War and the tough competition between the Soviet Union and the United States was developed, now we really have real international cooperation, and I think the next solar bodies, planets, should be approached only by international cooperation. So, for NASA, can you address NASA's difficulty with keeping our international commitments, most recently ExoMars, and how this brings into question the reliability of NASA as a partner?
As we all spoke about, the international cooperative efforts in space have been really helpful to our overall programs, but we also realize that as individual nations have gone through challenges, as we also discussed both on the science programs and the human spaceflight programs, we often have had to work through them, and sometimes that can actually be more difficult with cooperative efforts. The NASA investment in our Mars exploration strategy continues to be the largest investment for science beyond that of looking back at our own planet. It's actually almost equal to that, however. So we believe that Mars will continue to be a focus. Our agreements on ExoMars, our partnerships with Europe, are very important to us, and we have worked through and continue to work through a really difficult couple of months here. We appreciate that they've reached out to other partners, which is often what happens, and as we look to reformulate a very forward-looking, robust Mars program that takes advantage of international programs such as ExoMars and builds upon them, we believe we can take advantage of this cadence of missions that we have led at NASA, that we will be a part of and continue to be a part of, led by other nations, and continue to open up that space frontier. Mars is a focus of us for our robotic program, as well as longer term for our human program. As we reformulate the Mars program, we are looking at how we can do that better. This very mission on its way to Mars now, which will land August 5th, the Mars Science Laboratory has an experiment on it, a radiation monitor, funded by our human exploration program, to begin the data gathering for a time when we go, we all hope, together to another planet for the first time.
Thank you. So, taking into account the time, I'm obliged to select some questions. If some of them, they were always answered in another form, I will pass. Question for the panel. The global fiscal environment coupled with national imperatives to maintain a space program creates pressure for each nation to keep work in country. What form do they see global cooperation taking? Data sharing only?
If I
Please,
could
Dr.
have a go at that. I think the key to global cooperation is to see that by cooperation, by cooperating, one actually creates more opportunities. And if by cooperation we can grow the collective cake, then everybody gets a bigger slice. So I think in terms of cooperative agreements, I think it's got to be very clear what each party gets out of the agreement so that they can back it and approach it in a very open and clear way. But I think that's the goal that we have to try and achieve when we seek to put together a global cooperation agreement, is to make sure that everybody wins. And then the issues about protectionism never arise. Now that's an idealistic view, but that's certainly one that we should aspire to.
Also, I give the floor to Dr. Verner.
Yes, so I would like to mention a very special point of the cooperation in space. For 12 years, I was the president of a university, and we signed very many cooperation agreements with foreign universities all around the globe, in nearly all countries, and with very definite exchange of staff, of money, of students, of programs, whatever. It was really a very intensive area. And then I became, by chance or by accident or whatever you call it, the head of DLR. And I thought, okay, let's go on in that direction. Just meet, discuss, and sign. But then I learned that space is really a strategic matter of the different countries. So we have to be much more careful. Unfortunately, I would say, I would like to have a much more open communication and cooperation, but of course there is always some strategic ideas of the political area behind it, and therefore in my picture I said that, for instance, science and exploration and all these fields which are driven by scientists, we can use these areas also for an entrance for the other areas which might be more complicated from a governmental point of view.
Thank you very much. Dr. Farina?
Yes, as I tried to say in my quick presentation, was that I think fundamentally nations do get more in return from international cooperation than they get if they were to simply invest in their own domestic programs. But I think the challenge we face is that we as space agencies need to build that case better. I don't think that we have collectively put that case forward in a way that is compelling as a group. And I think that's an area we could definitely improve on.
Thank you. Next question. Where do you draw the line of collaboration to be sure there still is enough competition for innovation in a worldly community that faces budget constraints? Who wants to answer?
I could answer very shortly. I think there are many more things to do than we have the resources to do them, so I don't see that as a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay, thank you very much.
Same.
Let's see the next question. To Lori Garver, they will already address.
I agree. Always to agree. Always agree.
Is now a good time for another geophysical year? We don't forget that geophysical year opened a lot of doors for international cooperation for science and for a lot of programs, including the programs conducted by the United Nations. So maybe it's time for a new geophysical year. Do you have any other opinion? Okay.
Every year is a geophysical.
Every year, right.
Every year is a geophysical year.
As we
Okay.
all talked about.
If the non-US panelists could speak to the US Congress about ITRI, what message would they send?
ITAR, maybe?
An ITAR is this?
ITAR? I don't know ITAR. What is it? No idea what ITAR is.
Okay, next question.
Well, I think
have
that,
one more minute.
you know, the announcement this morning
Maybe it's about it.
was a, you know, I don't know the details of it, but I think is a very positive step. Certainly we have been working very closely with the United States on this issue over a number of years, and yes, there are challenges, but progress is being made, and we're very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, and last question, what is the noble goal that will compel cooperation short of a global threat, such an approaching asteroid? So about asteroids, I could tell you more because I'm part of the Association of Space Explorers. It's the association of quite all astronauts and cosmonauts. Now even I'm the president for 3 years. And we elaborate a very professional study in the framework of the association, using the expertise of many very well-prepared persons in the world. And we submitted this study to the UN in 2009. It became now a working document of the working group on near-Earth objects. So we analyzed very carefully this problem at the highest level, at the level of the UN. And we'll issue recommendations for an international organization for facing such events, the collision with an asteroid. And of course, we will make different recommendations to the regional or local authorities, how to deal in case of. So thank you very much. The red line is blinking. Our time is over. I thank you very much, the panelists, and I thank you very much, the Space Foundation, for inviting us to share our views on international cooperation here. Thank you.